Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk to you about the 5 new multi-chrome shades from Natasha Denona. I picked up all 5. If you're new to my channel, make sure you're subscribed to be entered in monthly giveaways. So the first thing I'll talk about is some pros with this shadow, and then we'll get to some cons. We'll talk about wear time, and we'll talk about some disadvantages. So the number one pro I would say with buying this eyeshadow is that the lasting time is insane. I've been wearing it for almost a day now, and it has not washed away. It's nice because it's waterproof and it's smudge proof, so unless you get like an abrasive thing like an eraser, it won't go away, which is nice. Now as far as my favorite shades, I would probably pick the SCARAB, which is the green with gold and blue shift on it, and I was gonna say my second favorite is the ultraviolet, but it really does remind me too much of the Pat McGrath Extraterrestrial. In fact, if I swatch it right next to the other one, which has like a pinkish purple tone, you'd find that the ultraviolet one is almost an exact dupe. I'm gonna swatch it next to this shade called Dragonfly, and that one is not anything like it. It's more like something you'd find in Divine Rose 2, but it's not exactly Extraterrestrial. I'll show you guys what I mean. By the way, are you noticing how chunky it's getting on the lid? So you really do have to start blending these out with a finger as soon as you swatch them, otherwise it takes more than a minute. Now this is the Pat McGrath Extraterrestrial. As you can see, the Pat McGrath formula is a lot more smoother, and you don't need to keep blending it with a finger, but it is almost identical to the color ultraviolet. It is not identical to the Dragonfly one, and you can see it almost has the same shift to it. You just get more longevity with the Natasha Denona one. My favorite is still going to be the SCARAB one because of the green, yellow, and blue shift. For me, it didn't give so much blue, mostly it was green and yellow. But ultraviolet is something that I would have picked as my second choice if I didn't already own the Pat McGrath Divine Rose 2 and the colors Extraterrestrial, because they do have the exact same shift to them. So the ones with the yellow shift, pink shift, and orange shift are probably my favorites, which we'll talk about more in a moment. The important thing to know is you only have a few minutes before it completely dries down, and then it becomes smudge proof unless you wipe the whole thing off. Now I was wondering, why is this the most expensive liquid multi-chrome eyeshadow that exists right now, and this is probably one of the reasons. If you look at the Stila eyeshadows, they retail for $24, but you get about 0.15 ounces, whereas for the Natasha Denona you're paying for almost $28 for half the amount. You're getting 0.08 ounces, and that is like exactly almost half of what you would get with the Stila. But then Stila quality compared to Natasha Denona, I'm not going to even talk about that. So you are kind of getting what you're paying for, but they still are asking for a little more than I think what the product is actually worth. By the way, this shade Kitten is one of my favorite Stila shades because it goes with an everyday look. Now, as far as liquid eyeshadows in general, you have very little time to figure out your look. Same goes with these Too Faced chocolate liquid eyeshadows. I find that you have a very small time. You don't even have enough time to do both eyes. You have to do one by one, and then you have like a very, very tiny amount of time to get your look figured out. I also picked up these Stila Double Dip Suede Shade and Glitter and Glow liquid eyeshadow, which have a magnetic effect. Same problem here. You have a very small window to get your look figured out, and also this blue actually bleeds into the skin, and it doesn't really do a good job as far as blending. So again, this is another reason why these Natasha Denona liquid eyeshadows are more superior. And I'm not gonna lie, the packaging is pretty attractive, but on the downside, they only last for 6 months, so you do have to get rid of them after 6 months, otherwise they are going to be expired. Now the one palette that everybody loves the most about Natasha Denona is probably the gold, and the reason everybody loves the gold is because of the 2 duochromes in there. So I decided it'd be interesting to compare those 2 duochromes with what she's currently releasing. Now I'm trying to do this in sunlight. The duochromes kind of disperse away. I don't have any primer on my skin, but the nice thing about the liquid eyeshadow is that it does have a very good staying power, and it actually I think, in my opinion, outdoes the ones in the Natasha Denona Gold palette. So I think this one is actually more superior to the Gold palette. And if you were thinking of spending $125 to buy the Gold palette and you're debating whether to get this one instead, I think this one gives you a lot of longevity. It's not exactly the same color, but I'd say it comes close enough, and it would definitely complement the Gold palette if you already own it as well. So it's definitely a plus for me. And if you're debating on only buying one of these multi-chromes, I think this is my favorite because it's the most unique one that I have in my collection. I think it would go great for a New Year's Eve Gatsby makeup, but again, we don't know how this year is going to pan out, and these only have a 6-month expiry, so it's something to keep in mind. And also, when I tried to wash it away, it did leave a glittery residue behind, so that was a little tough to get out, so that's another con. So between Natasha Denona and indie brands, I would definitely still stick with indie brands. In particular, I really do like Sydney Grace. I've talked a lot about Sydney Grace in my channel, so I decided to quickly give you some side-by-side comparisons with multi-chromes that I do have from them. For the top row, I used one of the Sydney Grace's cream eyeshadows with a purple shift, and then I added half of Natasha Denona to it. The second row is also Natasha Denona SCARAB, and the third row, I'm going to use a multi-chrome with a green shift from Sydney Grace. I'll link the name here. And that one, immediately you can see that it's just not super comparable to the creaminess of the liquid shadow, but it does have its own prettiness to it, and it doesn't just sit on the skin wet. It has a little bit of movement, so it would be better to hold it down with a glitter glue or a good primer, whereas the liquid eyeshadows don't really need that kind of pep work before you do your eyes, and they do just last long by themselves. And for my last row, I'm going to use Dragonfly by Natasha Denona, which also has a very creamy finish to it, so they do take a couple minutes to really dry down. So that's the biggest issue with these shadows, is the time it takes. But comparing them to Sydney Grace, I feel like the cream shadow quality is equally the same. However, the powdery shadow comes in second place when you're looking at the reflection of the swatches. Now let's talk about more pros. On their website, it says that they do have a high chrome finish, a jelly and moussey touch, highly buildable coverage, no cracking, moisturizing, high percentage of natural derived ingredients, talc free, mineral free, cruelty free, fragrance free, paraben free, gluten free, and they're made in Italy. Now, I don't know what it is exactly in the formula, but I would say one of the cons, for me at least, is that it makes my eyes very red and watery. I guess I have sensitive eyes, but they do feel kind of heavy on my eyes, and it's not really meant for an everyday wear. So given that these only last 6 months, I think that you should really pick them up right before you're going to a special event, or something is coming up. I wouldn't recommend buying all of the shades at once like I did, but I did it for a review. I think that it's good to have in your collection. I don't think they're going anywhere. I don't see anything about them being limited edition. Most likely what's going to happen is you're just going to add more colors to it, because a lot of people just flock to buy them because they are Natasha Denona. I did find it a little bit disturbing that they claim that they're the first eye-safe multi-chromes on the market, because we know that's not entirely true, and there's plenty of multi-chrome eyeshadows that are out there that are in fact very safe. So I don't like when brands go and reach that far. Personally, don't have any issue with her products, other than the fact that if I keep this on my eyes too long, it does cause me a lot of sensitivity. Overall, I'm glad that they're doing something different and not just releasing another eyeshadow palette that everybody seems to be rearranging every couple months. I do like that they're taking this approach, and I hope that this triggers other brands to follow and create more multi-chromes, because multi-chromes are definitely something that get a lot of us excited, and I hope that we will see more of them in the future. Anyway, as always, thank you so much for watching. Let me know what your favorites were and what your thoughts are below, and I look forward to seeing you guys next time.